Howdy guys, I am back in Mass Effect here in the Citadel where the Normandy is grounded. Last time I had a Codex episode of the alien races, and that alone took up 30 minutes. So I'm going to do another Codex episode today, and I'm going to try to get through as many of the primary entries as possible. So let's go ahead and get started with the Citadel and Galactic Government here.
The Citadel is an ancient deep space station, presumably constructed by the Protheans. Since the Prothean extinction, numerous species have come to call the Citadel home. It serves as the political, cultural, and financial capital of the galactic community. To represent their interests, most species maintain embassies on the Presidium, the Citadel's inner ring. The Citadel Tower in the center of the Presidium holds the Citadel Council chambers. Council affairs often have far-reaching effects on the rest of the galactic community. 5 arms, known as the wards, extend from the Presidium. Their inner surfaces have been built into cities, populated by millions of inhabitants from across the galaxy. The Citadel is virtually indestructible. If attacked, the station can close its arms to form a solid, impregnable shell. For as long as the station has existed, an enigmatic race called the Keepers has maintained it.
Okay, and so we found out from Sovereign that the Citadel actually wasn't even constructed by the Protheans. They also kind of just stumbled into it. Is that not true? So, and I really want to find out more about these keepers that are maintaining it. I mean, it sounds really great that this place is just completely indestructible. I feel like that's the Citadel is virtually indestructible. I feel like maybe something's gonna happen and we find out it's not completely indestructible, because I feel like this part isn't insignificant, but maybe I'm completely wrong. I can't imagine living here. Hey, let's just go move to the Citadel, right? Pretty crazy.
The Council is an executive committee composed of representatives from the Asari Republics, the Turian Hierarchy, and the Solarian Union. Though they have no official power over the independent governments of other species, the Council's decisions carry great weight throughout the galaxy. No single Council race is strong enough to defy the other two, and all have a vested interest in compromise and cooperation. Each of the Council species has general characteristics associated with the various aspects of governing the galaxy. The Asari are typically seen as diplomats and mediators. The Solarians gather intelligence and information. The Turians provide the bulk of the military and peacekeeping forces. Any species granted an embassy on the Citadel is considered an associate member, bound by the accords of the Citadel Conventions. Associate members may bring issues to the attention of the Council, though they have no input on the decision. The Human Systems Alliance became an associate member of the Citadel in 2165.
Okay, so there's associate members. Alright, I was kind of not completely clear on how that worked. So there's officially only 3 races on the Council, which is kind of BS, but we're trying, right? This picture is pretty funny too, because the Solarian's just kind of not even paying attention. She's glaring over at him. It's like, I feel like something about this whole council thing isn't going to hold up in the end. I feel like this might even fall apart. I don't know. I have no idea what to expect with the whole Citadel and council thing.
Citadel Space is an unofficial term referring to any region of space controlled by a species that acknowledges the authority of the Citadel Council. At first glance, it appears this territory encompasses most of the galaxy. In reality, however, less than 1% of the stars have been explored. Even Mass Effect FTL drive is slow relative to the volume of the galaxy. Empty space and systems without suitable drive discharge sites are barriers to exploration. Only the mass relays allow ships to jump hundreds of light years in an instant, the key to expanding across an otherwise impassable galaxy. Whenever a new relay is activated, the destination system is rapidly developed. From that hub, FTL drive is used to expand to nearby star clusters. The result is a number of densely developed clusters, thinly spread across the vast expanse of space, connected by the mass relay network.
Oh my goodness. So imagine if, I guess, what would happen if these mass relays went down or whatever? There'd be no way to. Gosh, that sounds really scary to put so much, to rely so much on this technology that's at least 50,000 years old, if not older, right? And my gosh, that's baffling. Less than 1% of the stars have been explored. Gosh. That's amazing. Space is huge. This is all so mind-blowing to me. I'm sorry. I just wow. Okay, okay.
Spectres are agents from the Office of Special Tactics and Reconnaissance and answer only to the Citadel Council. They are elite military operatives, granted the authority to deal with threats to peace and stability in whatever way they deem necessary. They operate independently or in groups of 2 or 3. Some are empathetic peacekeepers, resolving disputes through diplomacy. Others are cold-blooded assassins, ruthlessly dispatching problem individuals. All get the job done one way or another, often operating outside the bounds of galactic law. The Spectres were founded after the Solarians joined the Council. For many years they operated in secrecy as backroom problem solvers. Only after the Krogan rebellions did their activities become publicized. Assignment of a Spectre is less contentious than a military deployment, but makes it clear that the Council is concerned about a situation.
Okay. So, just a little bit about the Spectres. I don't think there's anything in here I really didn't know, other than, I guess Spectres are allowed to handle situations as they deem fit, which kind of plays into the whole player character thing. You can solve everything with shooting everybody, or you can try the more diplomatic approach. Anyway, humanity and the Systems Alliance.
The home world and capital of humanity is entering a new golden age. The resource wealth of a dozen settled colonies and 100 industrial outposts flows back to Earth, fueling great works of industry, commerce, and art. The great cities are greening, as arcology skyscrapers and telecommuting allow more efficient use of land. Earth is still divided among nation-states, though all are affiliated beneath the overarching banner of the Systems Alliance. While every human enjoys a longer and better life than ever, the gap between rich and poor widens daily. Advanced nations have eliminated most genetic disease and pollution. Less fortunate regions have not progressed beyond 20th century technology and are often smog-choked, overpopulated slums. Sea levels have risen 2 meters in the last 200 years, and violent weather is common due to environmental damage inflicted during the late 21st century. The past few decades, however, have seen significant improvement due to recent technological advances.
Geez, that's kind of a bummer. I like how they slip this in. Due to the environmental damage inflicted during the late 21st century, like, oh gosh, we know what's coming, what's already started. My gosh. So I wonder if basically all of the nations on the Earth have basically like gotten along now or something. It says Earth is still divided among nation states, though they're all part of the Systems Alliance. So it makes me feel like there's peace on Earth, maybe? I don't know. That'd be nice to think about, if anything else. Yeah, I'm really bummed I didn't read about Earth before, though. That's really interesting to think of what it's got to be like in the next few hundred years. The gap between the rich and poor widening. I think we've seen that in a lot of that's kind of a common theme in a lot of futuristic stuff, but anyhow, let's continue.
The Systems Alliance is an independent supranational government representing the interests of humanity as a whole. The Alliance is responsible for the governance and defense of all extrasolar colonies and stations. The Alliance grew out of the various national space programs as a matter of practicality. Sol's planets had been explored and exploited through piecemeal national efforts. The expense of colonizing entire new solar systems could not be met by any one country. With humans knowing that alien contact was inevitable, there was enough political will to jointly fund an international effort. Still, the Alliance was often disregarded by those on Earth until the First Contact War. While the national governments dithered and bickered over who should lead the effort to liberate Shanxi, the Alliance fleet struck decisively. Post-war public approval gave the Alliance the credibility to establish its own parliament and become the galactic face of humanity.
Oh, that's how it all went down. Okay, that's pretty cool. There was enough political will to jointly fund an international effort. My gosh. If only we could work together that well, man. That'd be fantastic. That's something to think about, that they actually managed to all work together to get that done. Alrighty, planets.
Pharos is a habitable world in the Attican Beta Cluster. 2/3 of the habitable surface is covered with the ruins of a crumbling Prothean megatropolis. In the millennia since the Prothean extinction, the ruins have been repeatedly picked over by looters many times. Pharos was considered a poor prospect for colonization, as little open ground remains for agriculture. The only sizable freshwater sources are the poles, which are tapped by the decaying Prothean aqueduct systems. The dead cities, while in good condition considering their antiquity, are of uncertain stability. Ground level is congested by a dozen meters of fallen debris, and the air is fouled by dust. In 2178, the Human Exogeny Corporation announced its intention to place a permanent colony on Pharos to thoroughly explore the ruins. The pioneer settlement was placed on the upper levels of several intact skyscrapers, using the surviving Prothean aqueducts and rooftop hydroponic gardens to support the population.
Definitely should have read about that before I got there, but I think I basically got all of this anyway. Because I do remember them, maybe I did read this, I don't know, I don't remember, but I do remember them talking about, how it was built on the colony was basically built on the ruins of, I can't imagine that this entire world was just almost one big city and there's nothing left. I mean, I think Pharos is probably the best example, and it's probably why it's one of the first places you have to do, of how destructive the Reapers were. I mean, this, imagine Earth. Very little of it is a megatropolis. Very little of it is actually big city. Most of it is, a lot of uninhabited nothingness. A lot of empty forest, a lot of water, a lot of desert, a lot of plains. I've seen a lot of empty land, and then the fact that Pharos, 2/3 of the habitable surface is covered with ruins. So most of what you could even live on was covered in a giant city, so there were just maybe billions of Protheans living here. Now there's nothing. I don't even think you know what a Prothean looks like. That's just baffling to think that this has been picked over the thousands of years, and that there's really nothing left but concrete and dust, basically. I find this really baffling.
Noveria is a cool, rocky world with most of its hydrosphere locked up in massive glaciers. A privately chartered colony world, the planet is owned by the Noveria Development Corporation Holding Company. The NDC is funded by investment capital from 24 high-technology development firms and administrated by an executive board representing their interests. The investors built remote hot labs in isolated locations across Noveria's surface. These facilities are used for research too dangerous or controversial to be performed elsewhere, as Noveria is technically not part of Citadel Space and therefore exempt from council law. By special arrangement, Citadel's special tactics and reconnaissance agents have been granted extraterritorial privileges, but it remains to be seen how committed the executive board is to that principle. Given its unique situation, it is understandable that Noveria is often implicated in all manner of wild conspiracy theories.
As we've noticed from being there, yeah, definitely. A lot of shenanigans happened on Noveria. That was definitely an interesting part of the game. Alright, how about Virmire?
Virmire is a lush world located on the frontier of the Attican Traverse. Its vast seas and orbital position on the inner life zone have created a wide equatorial band of humid, tropical terrain. Only the political instability of the region has impeded efforts at colonization. Many times the Citadel has opened negotiations to settle Virmire with various criminal gangs and petty dictatorships in the nearby Terminus systems. All fell apart due to internal power shifts within the opposing parties. The Citadel has written off the colonization of Virmire as impossible without significant political change. The Terminus powers themselves are unlikely to ever settle Virmire. Most lack the resources to support settlement of a virgin world, finding it more expedient to steal from their neighbors than build for themselves.
Dang. Virmire was, one of the more cool planets, honestly, like permanent, like make it like a resort, make it like a tourist planet or something with all the beaches or something. You build like a casino, some restaurants, have it just be, happy fun planet or whatever. I mean, it was so pretty, why not?
The Terminus systems are located on the far side of the Attican Traverse, beyond the space administered by the Citadel Council or claimed by the Human Systems Alliance. It is populated by a loose affiliation of minor species, united only in their refusal to acknowledge the political authority of the Council or adhere to the Citadel conventions. Their independence comes at a price. The Terminus is fraught with conflict. War among the various species is common, as governments and dictators constantly rise and fall. The region is a haven for illegal activities, particularly piracy and the slave trade. At least once a year, a fleet from the Terminus invades the nearby Attican Traverse. These attacks are typically small raids against poorly defended colonies. The Council rarely retaliates, as sending patrols into the Terminus systems could unify the disparate species against their common foe, triggering a long and costly war.
Gosh, so who the heck wants to live, like, out on the front lines here? It's like once a year a fleet comes and invades. It's like, y'all don't pay me enough to come out here. Screw that.
There are between 2 and 400 billion stars in the galaxy, and less than 1% of them have ever been visited or had their systems properly surveyed. Humanity's early expansion into the Attican Traverse was haphazard, a desperate race to claim habitable planets where populations can be economically settled. Ignored in the wake of this land grab were thousands of less hospitable worlds, each potentially rich with industrial resources. The wealth of entire solar systems lies untapped, waiting for corporate survey teams or independent pioneers to discover and exploit them. However, this is not an easy task. In addition to the environmental hazards, the fact that uncharted worlds are largely ignored makes them popular bases for criminals, revolutionaries, cults, and others who wish to remain unnoticed by galactic society.
Gosh, that is baffling. Less than 1% have ever been visited or surveyed. 2 and 400 billion stars. I can't even write that number. That's so, I'm sure I could, but that's so huge. I mean, it's like, man, I mean, this is just so mind-blowing. I really like this game. I really like thinking about how big and huge all the stuff in the sky is, how far it expands, right? And that's just in the galaxy. That doesn't include the whole universe, right? I don't know, it's pretty mind-blowing to me. Alright, so we did...
Pharos
Alright, so we did these 3, so now we're going to go look at the ships and vehicles.
Faster-than-light drives use element 0 cores to reduce the mass of the ship, allowing higher rates of acceleration. This effectively raises the speed of light within the mass effect field, allowing high-speed travel with negligible relativistic time dilation effects. Starships still require conventional thrusters, chemical rockets, commercial fusion torch, economy ion engine, or military anti-proton drive, in addition to the FTL drive core. With only a core, a ship has no motive power. The amount of EZO and power required for a drive increases exponentially to the mass being moved and the degree it is being lightened. Very massive ships, or very high speeds, are prohibitively expensive. If the field collapses while the ship is moving at faster than light speed, the effects are catastrophic. The ship is snapped back to sublight velocity, the enormous excess energy shed in the form of lethal Cherenkov radiation.
Oh boy, that sounds really scary. It sounds like pretty much any time anyone fires on one of those things that it could be potentially really, really dangerous, right? I mean, look how many people have died doing space travel. I guess anything that's really... I mean, I know it's a video game, but still, I mean, a lot of people probably died learning how to use this technology, I guess. It's pretty interesting little roguelike game, FTL. I don't know if you guys have played it. It's a little indie roguelike game. It's pretty fun, makes me rage a lot. Anyway.
Larger warships are generally classified in one of 4 weights. Frigates are small, fast ships used for scouting and screening of larger vessels. Frigates often operate in wolf pack flotillas. Cruisers are middleweight combatants, faster than dreadnoughts and more heavily armed than frigates. Cruisers are the standard patrol unit and often lead frigate flotillas. Dreadnoughts are kilometer-long capital ships mounting heavy, long-range firepower. They are only deployed for the most vital missions. Carriers are dreadnought-sized vessels that also carry large numbers of fighters. Smaller vessels are almost exclusively used in a support role to the warships during combat. Fighters are one-man craft used to perform close-range attacks on enemy ships. Interceptors are one-man craft optimized for destroying opposing fighters.
Okay, so it seems like the spaceships have a lot of the similar classifications as regular, water ships do here on Earth, and especially some of the airplanes too, fighters, interceptors, dreadnoughts. Nothing too terribly exciting, but just interesting for clarification. But what about the Normandy now?
The Normandy is a prototype starship developed by the Human Systems Alliance with the assistance of the Citadel Council. It is optimized for scouting and reconnaissance missions in unstable regions using state-of-the-art stealth technology. For most ships, the heat generated through standard operations is easily detectable against the absolute zero background of space. The Normandy, however, is able to temporarily sink this heat within the hull. Combined with refrigeration of the exterior hull, the ship can travel undetected for hours or drift passively for days of covert observation. This is not without risk. The stored heat must eventually be radiated, or it will build to levels capable of cooking the crew alive. Another component of the stealth system is the Normandy's revolutionary Tantalus drive, a Mass Effect core twice the standard size. The Tantalus drive generates mass concentrations that the Normandy falls into, allowing it to move without the use of heat-emitting thrusters.
All right, that all sounds really complicated, but sounds like we have a really cutting-edge ship, and we're probably going to have to use some of that stealthy stuff. I guess that's going to come into play here as I get toward the end of the game. How about Sovereign?
Sovereign is the flagship of the rogue Spectres Saren. An enormous dreadnought larger than any other ship in any known fleet, it is crewed with both Geth and Krogan. At 2 kilometers long, its spinal-mounted main gun is likely capable of penetrating another dreadnought's kinetic barriers with a single shot. How Saren acquired this incredible warship is unknown. The prevailing opinion is that Sovereign is a Geth construct, while others believe it is a Prothean relic. Its design, however, hints at a more alien and mysterious origin. The attack on Eden Prime demonstrated Sovereign's ability to generate mass effect fields powerful enough to land on a planetary surface. This implies it has a massive Element Zero core and the ability to generate staggering amounts of power.
And I guess now that we know that's pretty... I mean, that might still be the case, but the thing is, Sovereign is a Reaper, so I feel like it's not as limited and maybe uses even different technology, and since it considers if it is alive or whatever it's supposed to be, I don't know, I guess the laws of physics don't even apply to it, because remember on Virmire, Joker even said that it did a turn that would snap a normal ship in half, so... I feel like we can't completely comprehend this.
The Mako infantry fighting vehicle was designed for the System Alliance's frigates. Though the interior is cramped, an M35 is small enough to be carried in the cargo bay and easily deployed on virtually any world. With its turreted 155mm mass accelerator and coaxially mounted machine gun, the Mako can provide a fire team with weapon support as well as mobility. Since Alliance Marines may be required to fight on any world, the Mako is environmentally sealed and equipped with microthrusters for use on low-gravity planetoids. The Mako is powered by a sealed hydrogen-oxygen fuel cell and includes a small Element Zero core. While not large enough to nullify the vehicle's mass, the core can reduce it enough to be safely airdropped. When used in conjunction with thrusters, it also allows the Mako to extricate itself from difficult terrain.
Yeah, the Mako ended up being able to travel over things I didn't think it could, like when I first went to Alentia or whatever. I didn't know it could, like, climb over mountains and stuff. Pretty nice little thing. I am a big fan of this Mako car, even though I've gotten it stuck and gotten myself into some wacky situations for it. It's still pretty cool.
Biotics is the ability of rare individuals to manipulate dark energy and create mass effect fields through the use of electrical impulses from the brain. Intense training and surgically implanted amplifiers are necessary for a biotic to produce mass effect fields powerful enough for practical use. The relative strength of biotic abilities varies greatly among species and with each individual. There are 3 branches of biotics. Telekinesis uses mass-lowering fields to levitate or impel objects. Mass-raising kinetic fields are used to block or pin objects. Spatial distortion uses rapidly shifting mass fields to shred objects. Most organic species are capable of developing biotic abilities, though there are risks involved. Biotics are the result of an in utero exposure to Element Zero. This usually causes fatal cancers in the victim, but in rare cases, it coalesces into nodules within the fetus's developing nervous system.
My gosh, that's really scary. There's risks involved, and that's right. Gosh, Kaiden had a constant, I don't know if that had, any, ooh, gosh, alright, yeah, my gosh, that's so sad to think about with the fatal cancers and, I mean, I guess for the sake of, I mean, you ended up, I mean, I wonder if there was any, like, X-Men stuff, kind of stuff with this, with, like, mutants or whatever, because it's kind of what it is. Like, I feel like there's, like, a whole lot of story to tell between, you know, biotics and, like, I don't feel like this was enough to talk about the biotics. This just kind of all really blew me away. Yeah, and the abilities vary greatly. Like, I feel like this must have been an ordeal when they were first. Like, I feel like there's gotta be more to it than this little blurb here, right? Anyhow, I just looked down at my timer and I'm getting pretty close to 30 minutes, so I figure the technology is probably a good enough place to stop. We went through all of this, everything past the aliens, and I just started in the technology, so next time I'll finish going through the technology, go through this, and I'll probably be able to start working my way through at least part of the secondary. I'll probably skip some of this, like the tutorials, like, oh, you move, you know, W to move forward, even though I should probably look at some of this stuff in my own time. But anyhow, guys, I'm going to go ahead and be done with Mass Effect again. Sorry for another Codex episode. Looks like I'll be done in another episode, maybe 2. And then I'll be off to doing side quests here on the Citadel. Anyways, guys, thanks again for watching me play Mass Effect, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.